French armoured cruiser design had bounced back and forth between building single ships and entire classes of the type, and at the start of the 20th century, the latest addition had been the Lion-Gambetta class of 3 ships. But in between them and the last French armoured cruisers, the Edgar Quinet class, would come 2 single ships, each of which, in its own way, being an evolution of the Lion-Gambetta type, but also distinct enough from each other to be considered separate. One of these was the Jules Michelet, and the other was today's subject, the Ernest Renan. She was supposed to have been a member of the Lion-Gambetta class at first, but Émile Bertin wanted more speed, and he ended up changing the overall hull profile entirely, as well as extending the hull by over 30 feet, adding just over 1,000 tons to the ship's displacement, leaving it displacing just a fraction over 13,500 tons. The quest for speed was successful, as the ship would achieve 2 knots more than her predecessors when on trials for a top speed of 24 knots, although more realistically 23 was what you would likely achieve when she was loaded up for war. This was thanks to 37,000 indicated horsepower from 3 vertical triple expansion engines which drove 3 screws, an increase in power of around 10,000 compared to the Lion-Gambettas. Bertin had advocated for the use of even more powerful, but admittedly at this stage somewhat finicky, small tube boilers, but he'd been overruled and the more traditional large tube boilers had been used. He would go on to insist, much like Jellicoe with the later Queen Elizabeth class, that his ship could have been much faster if he'd gotten his way when it came to the boilers. The layout of the boilers meant that the ship would sport no less than 6 funnels in 2 groups of 3. Although armour remained broadly similar to her predecessors with a 6-inch belt and a 2.6-inch deck at their respective maximum thicknesses, there were a number of other important changes that all related to the armament. The main battery of 494mm or 7.6-inch guns in a pair of twin turrets, one fore and one aft, was retained, but the guns were new 50 caliber versions. On the Lion-Gambettas, the secondary battery had been 16 of the 164mm or 6.5-inch gun, with 12 of them in twin turrets and 4 in casemates, 3 turrets and 2 casemates on either side. On Ernest Renan, the casemates remained, but the turreted element of the secondary battery was reduced from 12 to 8 guns, and the turrets were now all singles. This apparent step back was done in order to save some weight, which was then put into protection for the main and secondary batteries, with the main turrets upgrading to 8 inches of face armour compared to 5.4 inches previously, and the secondaries now sporting 6.5 inches of armour compared to 4 inches previously. The anti-torpedo boat battery was also changed to be improved, with 24 single 47mm guns in the Gambettas being replaced by 16 heavier 65mm guns, along with another 8 of the older 47mm weapons where the mounting areas couldn't take anything heavier or larger. A pair of torpedo tubes, one on each side, completed the weapon's loadout. Laid down in October 1903, she was launched in April 1906, but only commissioned in February 1909. This long build period reflecting the many changes that were made to her design, and it meant she entered service in a world which was filled with an increasing number of battle cruisers. Nonetheless, her speed meant that she was the only other French armoured cruiser capable of operating alongside her successors, the Edgar Quinet class, and so she was sent with them at the start of World War I to try and hunt down the German battlecruiser Goeben and the light cruiser Breslau. Unfortunately, the Marine Nationale's High Command initially misjudged the Germans' directions of travel, and the French ships ended up sailing west instead of east, realising their mistake just too late to be able to catch up. Therefore, the ship was instead sent off to blockade the Adriatic to keep the Austro-Hungarian navy from coming out and causing problems in the wider Mediterranean, and so outside of lobbing a few shells at SMS Zenta at the Battle of Antivari, and accidentally ramming an Italian merchant ship, she saw no other action during World War I. As with many Allied warships in the immediate aftermath of that conflict, she was sent to try and help counter Bolshevik forces in the Russian Civil War. In her case, this was in the Black Sea, but these efforts were generally ineffective. She would then spend most of the 1920s as a gunnery training ship before being decommissioned at the end of the decade, and then sunk as a target ship in 1931.
That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you have a comment or suggestion for a ship to review, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to comment on the pinned post for dry dock questions.